Hey everyone, this is Pete, and welcome back to Evercade A to Z, a series of short playthroughs of the games on Blaze's Evercade retro gaming platform. Today we're looking at a game called Incantation. This was a 1996 release for Super NES, developed by Titus, and it subsequently ended up under the Interplay banner after the legal and financial back and forth between the two companies in the late 90s. Incantation in its original SNES incarnation is a very rare game that commands three-figure prices on the collector's market, but now you can play it as part of the Interplay Collection 1 cartridge for the Evercade, so it's a much cheaper way of doing it. And to be honest, that's about all I can tell you about this game, because there's not a ton of information about it online. No one has scanned and preserved the manual anywhere, so that's about it. We'll just have to go and play it. So let's go play Incantation.
Okay, here we are with Incantation, a 1996 game by Titus for the Evercade, or the Super NES originally, but this is the Evercade version that we are playing. The Super NES version, as I said in the intro, is incredibly rare and expensive, and this Evercade version comes as part of the Interplay Collection 1 for £14.99, so I know what the sensible choice to make is, particularly because this isn't a very good game. I will say this game has absolutely lovely graphics. Lovely pixel art. It moves really nice and smoothly. It's just not very good. So basically your job in this game is to collect coins and defeat enemies and make your way through various levels. And in most levels you'll find that you need to collect these. I think they're like grains of wheat or something like that, and you normally need those to bypass certain barriers. So there's kind of an element of collectathon going on. Now, what's supposed to be the interesting thing about this game is up in the top right corner. You can see that I've got a combination of elemental bits, basically. And clearly the concept for this game was for them to be... was for them to have all sorts of different spells that you could create by combining two of these elemental bits together. So here I've got two fires, which creates a fireball, as you might expect. Now, the trouble with the implementation of this system in this game is that, one, the fireball is better than everything else in the entire game. And two, once you get past a certain point in the game, they just stop providing you with stuff. It just very much feels like they kind of got bored of it halfway through and just gave you a fireball and just said, yeah, get on with it. We know the fireball's best. You know the fireball's best. Let's just all stop pretending. But yeah, I mean, I would hesitate to call this a bad game, because everything considered, it's competently put together. It looks nice, it moves smoothly, it works. But its problem is that it just suffers from not really feeling like a finished product in a lot of ways. And depending on how far we get... So we got 3 of them, so he'll let us through there now. Yeah, depending on how far we get through the game today, you'll see that, because it does things like it repeats bosses all the time. Like this guy we fight several times, and there's a frog boss you fight 3 times in a row partway through the game. It doesn't really help that the actual boss fight isn't very interesting in the first place. It also doesn't give you any feedback on when you're damaging him and that sort of thing. So there's just so many sort of half-baked ideas in this game. It could have been something really cool, but it just ends up being frustrating in a lot of ways. I'll level with you. The two Interplay compilations for Evercade are my least favourite, and I am not alone in this. However, that doesn't mean that I don't think there's value to them. In fact, I think there's a lot of value to them, because it's an opportunity to look at and try some games that, in the case of Incantation, this is so rare and expensive that no one, well, a lot of people wouldn't have had the opportunity to try this out in the past. And if it were to come out that it's not a particularly good game in the first place, then, I mean, people are going to be even less inclined to spend 300 quid on it, aren't they? So being able to experience this unusual and interesting game without having to pay through the nose for the privilege. Right, that's another spell rune there. I don't think I want to pick that up for now, so I'm just going to jump over that. And again there. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, this is one thing that always kind of confuses me about the retro collector's market in a lot of ways, is in many cases a lot of the rarest and most expensive games just aren't very good. Uh-oh. Oops. Pause the game on the way down. Yeah, and they're just... They're rare and expensive not because they're sought after for people who actually want to play them. They seem to be sought after by people who just want to have them to say that they've got them. A notorious example that comes up a lot on series like the Game Chasers and the like is the Sculptor's Cut of Clay Fighter on the N64. That's a terrible fighting game. But because that edition was like exclusive to Blockbuster or whatever, every N64 collector wants it for some reason. They're never going to play it because it's shit, but I don't know. I collect games, and I've bought a whole host of cheap 50p crap for the PS2 that I would never have bought back in the day. But the difference is the cheap 50p crap that I bought for the PS2 that I would never have bought back in the day, I've since booted up and discovered there's a lot of fun to be had with it. Stuff like the Simple Series games, those would have been panned by magazines at the time, if they were even reviewed at all. But now, they're actually among some of my sort of fondest experiences with the PS2, because it shows that that was a platform with a huge amount of creativity going on in certain sectors. And in an era before, when we tend to associate with the really creative stuff going on, which is the sort of when downloadable indie games became a thing, most people tend to assume that... Oh no! Done it again. Most people tend to assume that is when games got really creative. But no, if you look back at the PS2 era in particular, there are a lot of companies getting very, very experimental. And obviously just having real fun with game development. Oh. Yeah, so you can hopefully see from my gameplay here that, as I say, this game is, it's not like bad in that it doesn't work or it performs poorly or anything like that. It looks great, it moves great. It's just a bit uninspiring, really. The levels don't have super interesting designs, and they have frustrating things like those bottomless pits. There's annoying design elements like the aforementioned bottomless pits and having to restart the entire level every time. There's the magic system I talked about, which is a real wasted opportunity in this game. And the music. Oh, the music. Music is so bland. I guess you could make an argument that it's going for atmosphere, but I mean, it's not even really very atmospheric either. But like I say, I find the existence of this game interesting because it's a very late Super NES game. Like, 1996 was the year before Final Fantasy VII came out. To put that in perspective. Uh-oh. Oh. And for a company to think that putting out a new Super NES game at that point was the right thing to do, you have to kind of question them a little bit. But it is what it is. And because of that late release, it's because of that late release that it's so rare and hard to find and expensive these days. Because it came out so late, there weren't very many copies of it produced. No one bought it. And thus it's perceived as valuable just because there aren't very many copies of it out there. Oh, fuck's sake. See, the thing with game valuations, as I say, is it's nothing to do with whether or not the game is actually any good, and it's everything to do with the perceived rarity. And the monetary value of the game in question. I know there's a lot of people who sort of collect games purely just to resell them. And I mean, fair enough if that's something you want to do. But, you know, these things are meant to be experienced and explored. And as I say, while I don't think this is an especially good game, I am glad that I've had the opportunity to experience it, because I feel richer for having seen something that came out this late on the Super NES and having the opportunity to experience it and seeing how damn close to sort of PS1 quality graphics we've got in this game. Because, I mean, if you think about the sprite-based games on the PlayStation 1, outside of the ones that made heavy use of polygonal background, stuff like Symphony of the Night and that sort of thing, yeah, you could tell someone that this was a PS1 game and they would probably believe you if they weren't familiar with it. I have got almost to the end of this game before. When I first wrote about it on MoeGamer.net, I did actually make an effort to play through as much of it as I could stand. And I got to like level 8 or 9, I think. I think wherever I got to was actually the last level. But the last level of this, among people who have actually played this game, is a bit notorious for having some really cheap instant death opportunities. And so I got to that point and just, yeah, I was just like, that's enough. That's enough of this for now. see what I mean about the music though? It just goes nowhere. There's no drama, there's no development, there's no real theme there. There's a repeated bass line and an occasional little flute bit that doesn't do very much. It is saying nothing. And for me, a key part of mascot platformers... Oh, I need one more of them. For me, a key part of mascot platformers was always music. Because that helps to build atmosphere and establish characters and tone and feel and all that sort of thing. And if you're missing that aspect, it just really feels like the game is, well, missing something. Oh my god. And if your levels are designed this horrendously, you feel like something else is missing. What happens if we shoot this one? Where does this take us? The same place. Good. I'm glad we had this chat. Where is the third wheaty thing? Is that it? I guess that must be it. Alright, so there's one over to the left here, I think. Yes, there it is. And then there's one up at the top. Right, I think we might actually finally escape this hellhole. It is nice of them to provide an extra life that respawns every time you play the level, though. Meaning, as long as you can get that far in the level, you can have potentially infinite lives. Right, we've got all three doohickeys now. And he's let us through. Oh no, no, a boss! Oh no, no, it's exactly the same as the first boss, but a different colour. I tell a lie, he does behave slightly differently. So he now shoots those little enemies at you, and he does try and land straight on you now, rather than jumping at predefined distances from you. So it is marginally different, but it's still not a very interesting boss fight. And there's still no feedback whatsoever. So you don't even know if you're doing damage until you actually win. There we go, all done. Stage completed. Right, so we're now in this cheery location with some equally cheery music. Oops. And again, we're doing the same thing. We're still looking for grains of wheat, collecting coins. Which, if you hadn't figured out, at the end of the level, you get a... Well, I say you get a bonus. What it does is it counts down how many coins you got. And if you got more than 100 coins, you get extra life. So it's not like Mario, or indeed every other platformer, where you get 100 of the thing and you get an extra life immediately. No, you have to finish the level to get the extra life, because... I don't know. Ow. Right, now we've got 3 grains. Now we can get through there. Hit that. See that bomb power up there? That gives us another spell, but again, the fireball's just so much better for most things. I'm running out of energy. Oops. Okay, let's try that again, shall we? Right, 1 grain, 2 grain. Right, now I've got bombs. Don't think you can kill the things in the walls with the bombs. But it does allow you to blow through the holes in the floor a little bit more quickly. Which is nice. Let me through. I would rather like the fireball back. See, stuff like the use of spells here just kind of gives you just a glimpse of what might have been with this game if they developed it a bit further. Oops. That'd be the boss. Anyway, I think that's probably enough of that for now. As I say, there's about 9 levels of that altogether, several of which are making use of the exact same backdrop and music and boss in some cases. So after, I think, 2 levels of those skull caves, there's then 3 levels of swamp, all of which have the same boss at the end of it. And it just goes on like that. So I say it's a game I really wanted to like because that pixel art is just so beautiful. The animation's great. There's a ton of sort of personality and character about the sprites. The backgrounds are lovely. It scrolls really smoothly. But just so much of that game feels so half-baked that it's a shame. It's a shame. But, I mean, at the same time, I can kind of understand why that was the case. Because, as I said before, 1996, the PlayStation was already on the market. And the team developing this game must have been like, well, why are we even making this game? Why are we even making this game? No one is going to buy it. And indeed, no one did, from the look of things. But anyway, it's an interesting curiosity, if nothing else. So, like I say, not a game you'd necessarily want to spend a long time playing with. But if you do happen to have the Interplay Collection for the Evercade, it's worth booting up at least once, just to have a go. Just to see it in action, because it's... I'm kind of hesitating to say that it's cool, because... Like I say, it's not super fun to play, but it is cool to see lesser known historical curiosities like this. That's part of what the Evercade is all about. It's not necessarily about always all the big names and the latest and greatest and that sort of thing. Sometimes it's about celebrating the times where developers tried and maybe didn't quite pull it off, but they had a go. There was an attempt, as they say. But anyway, that is Incantation, originally for Super NES and now available as part of Interplay Collection Volume 1 for the Evercade. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.